It is Thursday evening before a football game, and that means it's time for us to preview and predict what's going to happen on this live stream. We're breaking down Auburn versus Vanderbilt, a matchup that didn't seem super interesting to start off the year, but oh boy, for both teams, is it so important. Let's get into it, including our score predictions, all that's coming up, interacting with you right now. War Eagle Auburn fans, and welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you are watching live on the replay, however you got here, whenever you got here, watching on Facebook, on YouTube, our home base of sorts. We appreciate you being here and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. As is typically the case, we like to get together on the Thursday before a football game, home or otherwise, and talk about it. Let's preview it. Let's predict it. Let's walk through every single thing that we can do to help you get to a point where you can make a more well-formed score prediction is the ultimate goal of all of this. So save those till the end of it. I always have to remind people of that. But we're going to walk through different scenarios as well. So that's what's on store for you tonight. Obviously, it's the best experience in the live portion of the show. If you're on the replay, we thank you for stopping by and taking in the content tonight. But as you come into the stream, especially if you're live, and you can even do this on the replay, let us know that you're here, where you're checking in from. Smash that like button. And of course, tell us you're excited for another Auburn football game, especially one back home on the plains, finally, with the month of October. Well, it's October 31st right now. Happy Halloween to you all, by the way, when we're doing this live. Hope you're all enjoying that. If you're watching this, clearly you're not out trick-or-treating with your family and friends, or maybe you are watching this live as you're walking around. I don't know, but we appreciate you being here and hanging out with us during our preview stream tonight on All Hallows Eve. All right, so a lot of fine people checking in. Stan's trying to scare us tonight, apparently, is what's going on there. He's checking in from Albertville. We got J313, Robert Huxley, under review, says, let's go. Everybody checking in tonight. Thank you guys for being here and hanging out with us this evening. So most of you are, I would assume a lot of you are regulars here, but I know that there's probably people checking in for the first time with us or not as regular. Let me walk through with you how this works. We're going to spend and Miss Linda's here watching live with us. Good to see you, Linda. Thanks for hanging out. Let me give you the rundown about how this works. Again, save your score predictions for the end of this show. I know that's the temptation. If you got to run, can't stay through the whole thing, that's understandable if you just want to drop it in for posterity. But we're going to get to that at some point. Under review is also his first time live. Good to see you here. Thanks for hanging out. We will get to that. We're going to walk through information first. I'm going to give you some stuff to look at on screen. You can choose how to digest that yourself. Just go off of what we're talking about. If you want to even come back later and pause the screen, we'll bring that up on there a little bit closer for you to look at. I think there's some important facts that I've kind of looked at myself a little bit and stuff that we can take away about this game. Once we get done with the informational part of the show, which is probably the first third, we will move into full prediction mode. We're going to go through offense. We're going to go through defense. We're going to go through special team scenarios, which will result in us giving our final scores. So stay tuned and see what's going on. Stan's already doing shenanigans. Where's WT at? Where's your partner in crime? If you missed last week, I predicted a 21-20 Auburn loss to Kentucky on the road, and they have not let me hear the end of it since then, which that's fine. You know, I told you guys, if I am a reverse jinx of sorts, maybe I should pick a loss tonight, because a lot of my predictions have not been, well, probably about half of them have been correct. But usually we get more well-rounded thoughts and predictions when we walk through all of this together. Okay. Sit back, relax. You can drop some comments while we're going through this first part of the show if you'd like. But let's get into the informational part of the show tonight. And we'll do the majority of what we normally do with the same type of documents and things like that. But we certainly want to we're not going to be able to do like some screen sharing and stuff like that from ESPN doing it from this way. It's a long, complicated explanation of things, but I think you'll enjoy this a lot more. Actually, let me back that off for just a second here. I thought I had all my ducks in a row and I did not. It's a little bit tricky sometimes. All right, let's do this. First document that I'm bringing up on the screen for you all to take a look at. Again, If you need to freeze frame, if we're going too fast, that's how I would just pause or come back later for it. But I want you to be able to look at this and talk about a few things. I have highlighted a couple of things that I found, either interesting, the most important, however you choose to view that. It's really up to you. First, let's talk about when it is. Obviously, November 2nd, only 2 days into November, 11:45 Central Time kickoff. Important, folks, not 11:45 SEC Network game in Jordan-Hare, Auburn, Alabama. You will look and see the highlighted portion there, the current non-rankings of both teams, the current records of both teams, pretty much, well, at least in the overall record, opposite. I was going to say complete opposite, but not exactly. And you can see the overall records of both coaches at each school right now, where they kind of stack up in the long-term game here. If you want some information about what to expect at this particular game, there are going to be a lot of important recognitions happening. Not only your 2004 SEC and national champions, because they should be. The undefeated 2014 will be back. Tommy Tuberville has also confirmed he will be back on the plains for that too. Keep your politics aside. He's an important part of that. And certainly we will like to have him back and celebrate with him there. The 2024 women's golf team who advanced to Elite 8 is going to be recognized, and a couple others for the Leah Rawls Atkins Award. Megan Schofield, who won the U.S. Women's Amateur last year. Pretty big deal. And then Pamela Wells Sheffield. I'm sorry, that's the award. Babs Anderson, who won that particular award. Here's the series for Vanderbilt. For those of you that aren't aware, Vanderbilt actually has a pretty good history, not modern, but history in football. Auburn holds a very small margin of 22, 21, and 1 advantage. I want to put that in perspective for you all. That means in the dominance that everybody has had over Vanderbilt, Auburn has always been behind until last year under Hugh Freeze, where they took the lead in that particular game. And in this particular, they won the game and took the lead in this particular series. Auburn leads 9-0 at all games in Auburn. So the history bodes well for Auburn to extend its lead in the series, and especially at home playing Vanderbilt. Last year was November 4th, very close, 2 days apart from when they played. It was a 31-15 victory. I think the score is not indicative of how dominant Auburn was in that game. We let them kind of come back slowly. Jarquez Hunter also had a great game there. You can look at his stats there, and Rivaldo Fairweather and Jeremiah Cobb also featured in that particular game. Will they all three of those guys repeat? I sure hope so. So there's some information there for you in that kickoff coverage section. Maybe won't read all of it, but just important to note that there are some very interesting stats there in regards to what Auburn is doing well in the country. Individuals like Keandre Lambert-Smith, for instance, Auburn is tied for the national lead with BYU and San Antonio and Vanderbilt. Missed that part in my first read through, with 10 players who have caught a touchdown pass this season. So what does that tell you? Might be a lot of options for them to throw the ball to in Jordan-Hare. Same thing for Auburn. Auburn has also scored in a school record 150 consecutive games. I'm going to knock on wood here. I don't think we're going to have a problem continuing that streak under Hugh Freeze for a while, but let's see if, especially at home, let's see if that continues. So those are some more things that maybe you could stop for a second and look at. We'll move to the next page. This next one, you don't really have to spend a lot of time on because there's not a lot that's interesting news. This is Auburn's depth chart in case you want to see it. It hasn't really changed all that much. Even though Peyton and Hank are listed 1-1, it's Peyton Thorne's job right now, whether you like that or not. Last week, we saw the shuffling with the offensive line. Dylan Wade has been playing a lot more at right tackle, starting at right tackle. So that's probably the biggest significance there. Alex McPherson getting a lot more time. Although, and we'll look at this in a second, certain appearances on the injury sheet could be significant. We'll see. We'll see if they actually end up being significant or not. A couple other things we want to talk about, and you'll see some of this reflected as well in some of the Vanderbilt information that we're going to look at. But if you look down the screen, I think you guys large enough for y'all to see. If it's not, I apologize. But I'll read some of it off to you. These are comparison stats for Auburn and Vanderbilt. So currently, Auburn is scoring 27.6 points per game and allowing 19. Vanderbilt is scoring 32 points per game and allowing 22 0.8. So Vanderbilt is scoring more per game, but also allowing more per game. You interpret that however you'd like, but that information is there for you. Very comparable in first downs gained and allowed. Rushing a little bit more for Auburn that they've gained, and similar in that they've allowed. Passing, they have gained more actually, which should surprise you from some of those other stats we saw for Auburn than Vanderbilt has. And then total per game, 431 to 351 per Vanderbilt. They're allowing 339 yards per game, and Auburn's allowing 325. So a lot of these, I think, depending on what your opinion is, they stack a lot in Auburn's favor. I don't know if everybody interprets that a little bit differently, but it is important, I think, to talk about a few of these things. And you can see some of their leaders here, obviously Hunter and Alston and rushing, Thorne and Brown in there. And then you've got Pavia and Johnson. I'm not sure that is. I guess it's the backup maybe. Pavia is their leading rusher and their leading passer. Receivers, Stowers and Skinner. We're going to talk about them again in a little bit. Those are important guys. I think Stowers is the tight end, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, everyone knows Lambert Smith, Simmons. Maybe we see Cam Coleman pop up in there a little bit. And as I've been trying to get you guys more aware of, you need to know the name Dorian Mausi. Dorian Mausi Jr. is dominating on the defense right now for Auburn. A couple of names there to keep in mind based on Auburn's sheets that we're looking at here. Let's take a look at some other things. We're going to pull up Vanderbilt's depth chart for you all a little bit because I think it's important to look at that. Here we go. Again, I believe that should be visible for everybody there. I have highlighted in different colors important players, but also what I view in some things for the injury report that's coming up here. If you look at obviously Diego Pavia is who we're all worried about, who Auburn's worried about, who Hugh Freeze is clearly worried about. But obviously, I talked to you guys about tight end Eli Stowers, not Stovers. Stowers is the guy that you probably want to pay attention to in the passing game. If you watched our simulation of this game, I think he showed up pretty big in that particular game. Wide receiver, Skinner showed up a lot. He's number 3. He showed up a lot in the simulation as well. I get it's a simulation, but obviously want to bring that up to you. But everybody highlighted in the yellowish color, I think, is currently appearing on in questionable on the injury report, which we'll bring up in just a second. So I want you to look at this. Their leading running back, Cedric Alexander, is questionable. Their defensive end, 2 of their defensive tackles, a right Z, which I guess is another defensive tackle or defensive end of some sort, a linebacker, and a backup cornerback are all questionable for this game. So we'll see how the depth chart is affected, but we'll also watch to see how the injury report changes or doesn't change as we get closer to game time, because they give the first one on Wednesday and things like that. In fact, I'll go ahead and bring that up for you now. Here is the one that I downloaded from this afternoon. I don't know if they updated it after I got the hold of this one, so it could be different by the time that we're talking about it live or that you're viewing this. But currently, not a lot has changed for Auburn. The people that have been out for the season have been out for the season. We've known about those for a while. Caleb Burton is now out for the game. That one it's not significant in the fact that we haven't seen him a whole lot this season, at least making a lot of catches, but he was supposed to factor a lot into the passing game. So something to keep in mind there for opportunities for others. They won't be competing against Caleb in this game. Keontae Scott is questionable. That is kind of a carryover from last week where he was held out. And Alex McPherson is also listed as questionable. To me, I think a lot of people were making a big deal about this. I don't find it as a big deal. I think it's basically the kid's clearly not all the way back. So we need to acknowledge that in some way. Maybe he had a bad week or something with what he's been dealing with. I don't know. I don't have any information on that, but he is appearing on this particular sheet. So certainly we wanted to talk about it. Okay. I think we're making pretty good time here. So we've got time to go through something from Vanderbilt. And then, my friends, get excited. We're going to go into the predictions, but get ready. Smash that like button if you haven't done so already. Okay, let's look at the Vanderbilt sheet that I brought up for you. I am got to get it pulled up on my screen. I got a lot of things hanging on around here. What I've got for you right now, if you look at that, this is from them. This is their starting lineups that they have had over the season. You'll see that I've highlighted the last game against Texas, and you can kind of see there, maybe compare that to the depth chart that we saw, compare that to the injury list that we saw as well. You'll see again that Alexander has been their leading running back all year, and he is currently questionable for that particular game. Stowers has started at tight end some. He hasn't started as much as I thought he would. And was it Skinner, the wide receiver, who's a little bit or who's somebody to watch for, has started the whole game there. But that gives you an idea of everybody that started for them and kind of something to keep in mind. Now we'll go to some stats. I like the way they're broken down here on this particular sheet. Some things that I found quite interesting. Look at that for them. Points off of turnovers for Vanderbilt, 51. Their opponents have only gotten 3. Auburn's not gotten a ton of points off of turnovers this year. Have they gotten any? I can't even remember. I feel like maybe 1 or 2, 1 touchdown or something like that. I'm probably wrong. But a lot of points for them off of turnovers. They have done a good job of converting possessions for their opponent into their own scoring opportunities. So something to keep in mind for something that's been a problem for Auburn at times this year's penalties. Very even. They're getting 14. Their opponents are getting 14. So it seems like they're pretty, with being kind of a wild, crazy offense, that makes a lot of sense. You can take the time to scroll through this a little bit more if you want it. Just want to provide it for you. Time of possession. They like to control the ball, keep the other team off the field, which was their strategy against Bama, and it worked. And we'll see if it happens in Jordan-Hare as well. Third down conversion, almost 50%, allowing 43% for, that's one of our questions too, for 43% for their opponents, or what are they gaining on them? And I think this last sheet, yes, again, you can scroll through whatever you'd like. And we're about to get into prediction time. But I like this breakdown I see on a lot of the teams' pre-game sheets. The score by the quarter, or how much they've scored in each quarter. It doesn't always tell the story, but I do think it's very interesting to look at these trends sometime. Obviously, Auburn, or their opponents, we're talking about Vanderbilt, their opponents have scored the least in the first and the second quarter. Makes a lot of sense with some of the big games they've been in. They've come out and hit whoever they have in the mouth. They've scored a lot in the second and in the fourth quarter themselves, being Vanderbilt. Not so much in the third quarter. Okay, pretty good in the first quarter. They are themselves scoring total of 256 points in the year, allowing 182. So however you want to break that down, however you want to look at it, looks to me like Auburn's strongest third quarter lines up perfectly with their weakest quarter, that being the third. So probably going to be also important for Auburn to come out of halftime, no matter what the score is, and hit them hard, hit them fast, and make sure you establish that this second half belongs to Auburn, and leave no doubt, because they can score in the fourth quarter. A little bit of overtime scoring as well, if you're interested in that. That's more information for you to use for yourself as you see fit. Okay, that is the information that we wanted to give you guys. Normally I do the ESPN thing for reasons it's not important. Not bringing that up tonight unless you guys want it. I might bring it over up here in a second. But we want to move into our predictions part of the show. A couple other people were checking in and hanging out with us. Good to see you guys. Any truth to you changing your handle to Kyle 21 to 20? That's funny. That's pretty funny. Under Armour messed up by not giving us the 2004 throwback jerseys for the game. Let me put it to you this way, Unbeaten Lake. Would you do anything for someone who refused to is refusing to re-up your contract? Extra special? You would honor your contract, but you're not going to do anything extra special. So it's probably on us as much as it is on them. I wouldn't do anything special if I was them, to be honest with you. And maybe that makes me petty, but I look at things a lot differently than others. Yeah, don't worry, WT. Stan was getting me earlier for the 21-10, so you're a little late to the party on that one. All right, let's start off with this. Alexander, what's going on, man? From TikTok, good to see you here. You got here just in time for the predictions part of the show, not the score. We're going to walk through all the different things. We're going to get things started with a little bit of like a warm up because you're going to be doing a lot of typing, quick, short answers to answer as a group. It's like just a quick poll of the room so we can kind of get a temperature of what everybody thinks about certain scenarios. So what I want you to start with in this game, if we look at the matchup, I'm looking at ESPN right now. The spread has moved to Auburn 7.5. Again, I don't understand all of this completely and how you explain all of it. I always view it as Auburn is favored to win by 7.5 points or however you want to round up or down that. So what do you think? Yes or no? Not your score yet. Not your score yet. Are you just type yes or no? Do you think Auburn can beat Vanderbilt by 7.5 points? Let's just call it 8 by 8 points. Let's just for sake of argument there, because that'll make things interesting. Type yes or no in the chat right now. This is just an easy warm up for all of you guys in there. Kenny checking in on Facebook. Good to see you, man. He says no, not very high on it. Under review, yes. Stan, yes. Right, starting to bring them in. Getting all the predictions. Another no from WT. Robert with a no. So touchdown victory, huh? So I wonder if this is going to reflect in some of y'all's scores tonight. This will be interesting to see if it actually does come out in some of the things that y'all predict. We'll see if it all shakes out there the way some of you are answering. Dick on Facebook. Now, Linda, you can't do this little ambiguous yes or no. You can't be like, you got to pick yes or no. We are all hoping that. The answer that we would all give is I hope or I believe or whatever. So you got to pick one or the other. That's how this works tonight. Okay. Prediction point of the show. Offense, defense, special teams, score. Save the score till the end. We will get there. If you need to leave and you can't come back, please, you're welcome to share it if you want people to see your score. But we're going to ask for it all at the end of this thing. Vegas is begging people to take Vandy because they know. They know we're going to win. Is that what you're getting at? I don't understand how all that works. So it's just beyond me sometimes. Okay. Let's talk about it. Auburn offense is where we're starting. How is the offense going to do? Here are our scenarios. Let's start with number one. I want you to answer this for me. How many passing yards and how many passing touchdowns will Auburn's offense have versus Vanderbilt? How many passing yards and how many passing touchdowns will Auburn's offense have against Vanderbilt? What say you? While you're thinking about that, typing your response, I'm going to go back over here and see if I can find out information for you guys about what they may or may not be giving up. Your passing yardage, 224.3 is their opponents. A total of 13 passing touchdowns. So 1 point something touchdowns per game. So not a lot they've been giving up. Some predictions rolling in right now. Pretty consistent here. Maybe some ups and downs in yardage. We've got a little bit more optimism coming here on the back end from Linda and Alex. 303, 245 and 3. Anybody else? Get them in. Get your predictions for this scenario while you can. I'm going to say if they're allowing average, obviously it's an average, of 224.4, I think Auburn can do better than that and usually does. So I feel comfortable, going in the I'll say 245 and 1 passing touchdown. 245 and 1 passing touchdown. think it's a similar day as it was Kentucky, where it's not flashy and Peyton is not the talk of the show, but I mean in a good way. Like, I think, as I said yesterday on the show, I think it was here, that Auburn is at its best when he doesn't have to be the star of the show, and he is at his best. And that's not a shot at him. That's just simply saying we all saw the results of that last week. All right, next. Here's the one you all want to talk about. How many rushing yards and how many rushing touchdowns for Auburn in this game? This is your total. This isn't one player. This isn't, this is the total of rushing. Remember, you've got Jarquez, you've got Damari, you've got Jeremiah Cobb, you've got Peyton who will factor into this. We have thrown Malcolm into some rushing attacks as well. So how many rushing touchdowns and how many rushing, what is that one? Oh, it's just got a weird email. How many rushing yards and how many rushing touchdowns in this game for all of you all? I think I lost my place in... No, there we go. I think, well, yeah, okay. Stan got us started on this one. I need to start putting like a little break. I used to type in break when some of this stuff got a little bit confusing sometimes. 303, 230 and 350 and 4 under review says 250 and 2. Dalton just says War Eagle because he's checking in. Yeah, we missed you guys. You're getting behind in the predictions here. You got to jump back into it. 220 and 2 for Linda. I will say, I think we can all agree that Jarquez will get the ball a significant amount, and he will probably score at least a touchdown. So I think he's good for one. I get the feeling we'll get a second touchdown rushing from someone else. So I'm going to sit in the area of, let's see what their rushing yardage per game is. They are allowing 114.8 yards per game. I will say that Auburn gets 205 and 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. It will be Jarquez and then somebody else. I don't care if it's Peyton, Mari, Jeremiah, Malcolm, or some random person off the street. There's another prediction right there for that. We'll see. We've all offered our take in this particular area. All right. Next one for the offense. How many sacks will Auburn allow on its quarterbacks against Vanderbilt? Am I saying Vanderbilt weird, by the way? Vanderbilt. I will try to find that information for you as you are looking it up right now. Sacks. Where is sacks? They are, and it's always confusing because I don't know if this is listed as their sacks that they've had and how many yards they've lost. I don't know how to read that. That's a little bit confusing. So I don't really have a definitive answer on that. But how many sacks do you think Auburn's offense will allow to all of its quarterbacks? 3, 2, 4, 2, 3, 1. If we get beyond 4, I'm going to be very worried about this game. I think you're guaranteed to have at least 2, like Robert and some others have said. Pass protection has been inconsistent at best this year. So I feel like we've got to at least expect 3 in the game. Now, they may be very spread out, and I hope they are. But as we've seen, they usually come in the first drive of the game. So I'm going to say in the first 2 drives, we have 2 sack each, just based off of current events. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'll say 3 throughout the course of the game. You know what? I'm going to make it 4. I'm going to go with under review here, 1 per quarter. If they're spread out like that, I can take it. Hopefully we can overcome that. But 4, I think is a fair assumption given how things have gone at times for all the quarterbacks, not just Peyton this year. Next one. How many turnovers will Auburn's offense give up in this game? This is interceptions, and this is lost fumbles. We're not even asking about just a fumble, just the lost fumbles. Like, they force it and they get it. How many turnovers will Auburn's offense have? I will look the information up for you as I start yelling. Excuse me. Let's see if it's listed here. interception return yards. That's not what we interception return average. That's not what we want. It's not showing on this particular thing that I'm looking at, but you can probably make a guess based off of Auburn. I've lost my place in this. This is the problem with asking some of y'all the question again. So let me see here where I left off at. Does anybody remember who the last one was? I think it was Robert, maybe. I think here, 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 and here. I think Auburn's going to have a fumble. Although they've done pretty good with turnovers, except for the interception last game, that really didn't affect us all that much. I think you should always this season expect a fumble and an interception. I hate it, but I think it's the reality. It would help prepare yourself for that. So I'm going to expect one fumble, one interception for Auburn's offense in the game. We got a 3 from Unbeaten Lake. That's what I'm going to go with. And it wouldn't surprise me if the interception is actually us trying some weird trick play where somebody who doesn't normally throw the ball throws it up into the wrong space. Yeah, that would not be ideal. So, where are we at? I'm going to go back to my notes over here. Next question for the offense. I'm going to revise this one because it's become redundant, especially after last week. Normally, I ask how many or who's the best rusher. We're going to amend that. If it's not Jarquez, you can change it and say somebody else will be the top rusher. But predict for me how many rushing yards will Jarquez Hunter have in this game. But you may predict somebody else as the leading rusher. Think it's hard to make a case for that after last week, but maybe you just want to do it for giggles. I don't know. How many rushing yards for Jarquez? Just yards, no touchdowns. I'm just looking for rushing yards since the question became kind of redundant as time has gone on for him. 250. 250. So we're just flat out saying Jarquez has another amazing game. 280. I need to make sure I go up to Jarquez and just show him this section of the live stream and say, look how much the expectations are for you. We got a full breakdown from Unbeaten Lake, 130 for Hunter, 50 for Thorne, 115, 205. Keep in mind, they're not allowing a ton of rushing yards as a defense, or at least to their opponents. So that may be something to keep in mind with the way you're thinking about this. I will say that I think Jarquez will break 100 yards. I think that there's going to be a concerted effort to make sure that happens in decision-making and play calling opportunities. So I feel confident that he's going to reach 100 yards. But I think we're going to come back down to earth a little bit. So I will predict that he is going to have 100 and... I want to say 120, but I feel like that's almost too much. I'm going to say I'll just go with 120. That was my first thought process. Go with what your gut tells you, right? All right, your next question on offense. Who will be Auburn's leading receiver in this particular game? What do you got? Who's it going to be? Which player? You've got a lot of options. There's a big obvious one there. But keep in mind, as the stat that we've talked about a lot, Auburn has gotten the ball touchdowns and receptions to a lot of different players. So you also have to ask the question of what does that mean to you? Does that mean most receptions? Does that mean most touchdowns? Does that mean most yards? All three combined. I mean, it looks like it's pretty clear across the board here for everybody. I think it's probably a safe bet if you are a betting person to say KLS, and you probably won't be wrong. I do get the feeling that someone else is due for a breakout game of sorts, whether it's your Cam Coleman. I wouldn't say that Malcolm needs a breakout game because I think he's already had that in many ways, even though they haven't been amazing. We got one Coleman prediction. Perry could be another opportunity if they're not trying to redshirt him. But a lot of you think it's KLS. It may become how many yards does KLS have instead of who's your top rusher or receiver. But one for Coleman, a bunch for KLS. We'll see if y'all are right. All right, last one for the offense. What will be Auburn's third down percentage on offense? Keep in mind that as a defense, Vanderbilt has allowed a third down conversion percentage of 43% as a defense to their opponents. What say you? I think Auburn's got to make sure that they are pushing that 50 mark, even at home. This is a team that can score. This is a team that's got some kind of mojo going this year. It certainly would behoove Auburn to make sure that they're doing as good as possible. There's a 46, 65, 25, 50, 55, 50. So a lot of 50s thus far. Stands the highest at this point. Anybody want to go beyond 65%? If we get beyond 65%, we're winning the dang game. Another 55, 55, a 60, another 60. Looks like everybody's pretty high on the third down percentage. I would say probably 50. I'm going to go weird here. I'm going to go 53%. I know it's much easier to go to the fives or the 5 or 0, round it off, all that type of stuff. But I'm going to go 53%. Excuse me. Yeah, sleepy for some reason. Hasn't even been that long of a week. This weekend, I'm going to be tired, though, because we got to get up. I got to get up early tomorrow to get to Auburn for other reasons other than just to be at Auburn, but also early game on Saturday and then a busy, frantic day with episode 100 of the Auburn Experience podcast on Sunday, which we're still trying to get things figured out for. Sorry about that. Okay, let's keep moving forward. We are done with offense. Defense. How many passing yards and how many passing touchdowns will Vandy have against Auburn in this particular game? For your reference point, passing yardage per game for Diego Pavia and the Mighty Doors, 195.4. So really not that impressive in terms of passing per game. I'm not going to say that Auburn has been actually more impressive in the passing game, just not in some other areas that have kind of negated some of that success. But let's see what happens here. Remember, Tim Beck is their OC. He was their OC last year for New Mexico State when they beat us. They literally brought the entire staff just to beat us. In some ways, it's probably not true, but I did make the point yesterday somewhere on one of the streams I do that you have to think that Vanderbilt used that as their reason to go after them, what they did to Auburn at their place. Felt maybe that could have translated over to the rest of the SEC, and it did for some of them. 200, 200, 176. So most of you guys are all predicting not super high. Some of you are. Tim says 245 and 2 touchdowns for them. I think we're gonna hold them. Yeah, I really want to stay below that 195. I'll say 210 and 1 passing touchdown for Diego Pavia. I think they're going to get most of their, and that touchdown will probably come by way of Stower, the tight end. Just a guess, just a feeling. I think our struggles are going to be on third down with his feet, his legs, most certainly. All right. How many rushing yards, how many rushing touchdowns for Vanderbilt against Auburn? How many rushing yards, how many rushing touchdowns for Vanderbilt against Auburn? For your reference point, rushing yardage per game for them, 156.113 total rushing touchdowns as compared to their 14 passing. So very balanced touchdown-wise, somewhat balanced in yardage, a little bit less on the rushing. But with a guy like Pavia, obviously, and he is their leading rusher by, I think, he's either 100 or maybe less than 100 yards. So what do you think? This is an area of Auburn's strength is the rushing attack. 165, 125, 142, 130, and 1. It's pretty similar. A little bit of variance in the amounts, but pretty similar here. Unbeaten Lake's the only one with 2 rushing touchdowns. I'm going to put this out there as a prediction. 90-0 Very bullish on our defense, and I love it. 175-2, 150-1. If Auburn gives up more than 3 rushing touchdowns and another rushing touchdown, they're going to lose the game. I'm going to put that hot take out there. You can disagree with it if you like. 3 rushing touchdowns for Vanderbilt and something else, they've lost the game. They have to keep them under 2. So I'm going to say, I'm going to call 150-2 rushing touchdowns. It's going to get dangerous. It's going to get dangerous for the Tigers in that area with Pavia's legs. All right, who will be Auburn's top tackler for this game? Again, this might be an area where it may be somewhat easy if you've been paying attention. We've been really touting Dorian Mausi here. Remind you of some other names to keep in mind with Keldrick Falk, Eugene Asante, Austin Keys. Jaron Thompson's shown up a lot near the top of a lot of our tacklers. You could say maybe that's a good thing or not a good thing, but he has come roaring in and gotten a few and tackles for loss, sacks. So you may not be out of the realm of possibility to predict a safety being your leading tackler, especially if they try to throw the ball more than maybe we expect them to. Falk is one, but we got a bunch of Asante-san, a squash banan. I wonder if he gets that a lot. A DeMarcus Reddick pick from Linda. I like it. Wants the young buck to make some more noise. I love the Eugene Asante pick. Y'all know how much I love the dude. I get the feeling he was going even more specific with it. I think it's still going to be Dorian Mausi. I think y'all are still all sleeping on him too much. I think it's the easy answer. If you've been looking a lot, he's been at the top or near the top a lot of our games, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was last game, and he's currently the leading tackler for Auburn. I'm going Dorian Mausi. Man is making the most of his last year in college football. So I'm going Dorian Mausi. Still hope I'm pronouncing that right. All right. Next question for the defense. How many, and answer this if you want to answer, I'm asking a bunch of things together for reasons. How many sacks, fumbles, and or interceptions will Auburn's defense have in this game? You can do whatever, whatever. If you want to do all of them, or you can just choose to answer whatever part of it. I know it seems confusing to some, but we used to break these all up and it got really monotonous. But whatever, or hyphen, or whatever you want to do. How many sacks, fumbles, and interceptions? And we're talking about fumbles that they get, not just fumbles they cause, fumbles that they get. Stan, feeling very confident about the sacks here. Somewhat similar for 313. No interceptions from Robert, but under review says 2 picks. 3. Not Unbeaten Lake doesn't have a lot of, well, in that stat area, doesn't have a lot of faith in what's going to happen there. Okay. Bryant says 3 and 1, so I'm guessing that is 3 sacks, 1 fumble, no interceptions. Not sure which one he's talking about, but there you go. I will say Auburn's going to get 3 sacks, force 1 fumble. I think they're going to try to run a lot. And I think they're going to limit him throwing, even though that's probably their best opportunity to make some noise against us. So I'm going to say no interceptions. So I'm going to say 3-1 and 0. I think somebody else said that too. 3-1 and 1. 3-1 and 0. Well, there we go. Me and Brian. Okay. Last one for the defense. This is a yes. It can be a yes or a no. Or let's do it this way. How many defensive touchdowns will Auburn have in this football game? They nearly had one last week if he doesn't step out of bounds. They are due for one. Or do you agree that they're due for one? How many defensive touchdowns will Auburn have in this game? How many do you got? 0, 0, 1, 0, 2 pick sixes. Wow. 1, 0. I'm gonna say 0 However, I hope I'm wrong because I think that could be the difference in this game. My hope is that we are able to take care of business rushing. Peyton can provide a little bit in the passing game, get us at least one passing touchdown. And if we can get a defensive touchdown with some little help from field goals, we're going to win this game. That is kind of the direction I'm heading. So that should start to kind of paint the picture of what I'm thinking for my score. All right, we like to be done usually by 8:50 with this part of the show. We'll do some Q&A at the end here. So we got a rapid fire here. Special teams. Let's go. Ready, run. How many punts for Auburn in this game? Usually if you punt a lot, that's not a good sign. How many punts for Auburn in this game? You could also make the case that you get out to such a lead that you have to punt a lot in the second half because your second team, your third team's out there and, they're just not as efficient. How many punts for Auburn in this game? 4, 4, 3, 4, 2, 2, another 4, 3. This is 4 a lot to you guys? To me, I think if Auburn hits 4, that's kind of the point where they really don't need to do more than that. I think our offense will stall enough to probably do 4 times. So I'm going to go with a lot of you there and agree with you that 4 is probably not only the prediction, but that magic number of success and failure. I think if you're punting more than 4 times, especially early on, you're not going to have a lot of success, especially when we keep getting penalties on punt returns and kick returns. It's just frustrating. Oh my goodness. Here's probably the most important one of the special teams, maybe. How many field goals attempted and made? I know there's questions about who's going to kick and what they are going to kick. Remember, McPherson is still listed as questionable. My personal opinion, I don't think I think that is a formality at this point, given what he's been through. So you got to ask yourself, is Auburn going to be kicking a lot of long field goals? Because it's probably going to be Towns. Are they going to be kicking a lot of short field goals? If he is okay, it's probably going to be McPherson. McPherson showed that he still got the leg even in his first miss of his career at Auburn. Nearly made that one. I think Auburn is probably going to be 1 and 2 in field goals in this particular game, in my opinion. 2 and 2, 1 and 2, 2 and 2. Some very similar things. Tim thinks we'll kick a lot more. 2 and 3, 3 and 5. Woo! Hope we're not kicking that many field goals. That is. Woo! We're doing field goals right now, Neil. Good to see you back. He's just got done trick-or-treating. Hope that was fun. I know some of you had to go do that tonight. By the way, this is probably our worst year for trick-or-treating in our house, and it's kind of sad. I know I had to come up early to do this, but 2 families. And we're a small neighborhood, but we normally get about 5, 6, 7 families. 2 this year. It's bad. It's bad. Okay. Keep diving into here. A couple more things. This is a yes or no. Will Auburn have any punt or kick returns for a touchdown in this game? We might have to change this one soon, too. What do you think? Yes or no? If you say yes, how many? I feel like we are due for one, but we can't not have penalties. So I'm going to just say a no because I think Coach Freeze, based on his comments at the press conference, is not going to allow a lot of opportunities. 313 says yes. Jeremiah Cobb is the factor in this. If he gets a crease, he's gone. Don't do it. Don't do it to us. Don't do it to us. Don't do it to us. I say no because I don't think there's going to be a lot of opportunities given Coach Freeze's commentary. All right, last one, and we're going to get to score predictions here. We're like just right on time. Number of penalties and the yards effect and the amount of yardage that we give up on those penalties for Auburn. Doesn't matter if it's on offense or defense. Start thinking about some of our issues. We just discussed one of them where we typically get some penalties called on us. We are going to be at home. So does that play into, frustrations and things like that? If things aren't going well, think about your yardage, think about how much they've been given up. I think there was a stat listed here for that. It says 14 penalties total. Well, that doesn't actually make sense, but so I won't go there. Here are some of y'all's predictions. A couple of them coming in. I feel like we're going to be higher in penalties this game. I think one of them is still going to come on special teams because I think you have to go with the odds at this point. I would say it's on punt return, not kick return. I think we'll actually have an okay kick return game, but punts where you know that you're probably going to have a lot of more attempts at returns. That's where it's going to come from. 3 and 45, 3 and 45. I'm going to say 6 penalties, 1 false start, 1 offsides, 1 pass interference, 1 personal foul being too rowdied up, like a roughing the passer or something like that, and blocking the back. So I'm going to say 6 penalties for like 70 yards. That's not good, but I think that's what we probably need to expect right now. I don't know if that math checks out to what I said, but that's just me kind of throwing it out there. Okay, we have done it, folks. We have made it through offense. We have made it through defense. We have made it through the special teams and the miscellaneous stuff. Now is the time. I need your score predictions. It doesn't have to match up perfectly with those other things that you were predicting throughout the stream. But now is the time. Now is the best time to give me your score predictions. Auburn, Vanderbilt, Jordan Hare, 11:45 a.m. Central Time. We'll be ending probably at 2:45. Are we celebrating? Are we getting excited? Are we heading towards a comeback in the season? What do you all say? What are your score predictions? Auburn versus Vanderbilt. Obviously, tell me who wins. Don't just give me your score because that's a little confusing sometimes if you just give me the score. I assume it's going to be Auburn if you put that score first because this is an Auburn channel after all. This was Auburn 35-14, 38-27. A lot of points scored for both teams. Well, I mean, relatively amount. That's still a lot of points. 52-23-1-3. And if I remember correctly, you were more bullish about like defensive stats and stuff too. Just gives us a flat Auburn will win. Doesn't even want to participate. 28-21, 27-24 Auburn. We have Tim with the first Vandy prediction. Vandy 27, Auburn 23. Boo him, not me this time around. 27-24. Where are we at? 45-30. There's WTs. I think we've gotten everybody. If not, 34-17 Vanderbilt if we don't get Pavia out of his comfort zone. Didn't you already predict one? Didn't you already offer us a prediction on being like, no? So 34-17 is his effect. So we got 2 predictions for that. He's like all jacked up on sugar right now. I'm sure he's sneaking a few as he's sitting there with the candy. All right, listen. I got a lot of flack last week when I called UK win and at the beginning of the season too. I predicted this as a win convincingly at the beginning of the season. This is not going to be a convincing win if it is one. I will say this. It's no understatement to say that Diego Pavia is where this game begins and ends. He's got some type of magic I don't understand. Last year we saw it. We've seen it again this year in other situations. Will it happen here? I predicted a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns. I feel comfortable predicting 21 points minimum at home. I also predicted a field goal for 24. So I'm going to stick with that. The question to me becomes, and I said this earlier, if Auburn can get a defensive touchdown in this game, I think it will break the backs of a very upstart and very probably motivated Auburn Vanderbilt offense, because at that point you're in the 30s, and not that they can't get to that. I just get the feeling that the ferocity of this team not being at home for so long, everybody being back together, the 2004 team, wanting, desiring, driving for all of that. I'm going to say Auburn wins. Seems so simple. I'm going to say Auburn wins 24-21. I think it's pretty much going exactly with what I predicted in the different sections there. There's a couple more coming in right there. There you go. 21-24 is my official prediction. Auburn wins at home, continues or builds a winning streak. There you have it. So we got everybody else's. They're locked in. We'll see who's correct. Stick with us and make sure you stay tuned all weekend. We got a ton of stuff coming up for you this weekend. All right. I have time for Q&A on this Halloween evening. So drop comments, questions that you'd like for me to address here in the live portion of this show. And we will certainly take a few of those and talk about them. Let me do a quick rundown with you about the stuff, about this weekend, all the kind of stuff. A lot of you probably already heard this, so just sit back and use it as a reminder of sorts. But obviously, our next scheduled live stream, scheduled is a key word. You never know where might go live on different places, but we will be doing, if it comes up on screen, Auburn and Vanderbilt Tiger Walk Live. Join us if you can't be there on YouTube. Obviously, most of you are watching on YouTube. Please join us there. Let us know that when you're there, smash that like button. The preview page for that will be set up probably tomorrow sometime. If you find it, go ahead and hit the like button. Help us continue. These are big videos and do help us out in our growth of this channel. So you can help do your part by even doing the notify me bell, all that kind of stuff. Post-game show won't be a late one because we're having an early game. Hopefully we are having a celebratory game. If not, we'll have therapy and talk about what's next after that. So that'll be the post-game show. Stay tuned for that. And then, of course, as we've been talking about all week, we have episode 100 of the Auburn Experience podcast. We have finally made it to triple digits. We have been in a struggle to get some things out of our control figured out for this week. Maybe close to that tomorrow finally. And we will be doing an episode as of this point, and with hopefully at least one, maybe two special guests on the show. So this show will be a little bit unique. We'll cover some things like we traditionally do, but we're going to be talking to some of our special guests. But I think you'll be interested to hear from both of them. So please do join us for that live, likely at 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 Eastern, Sunday afternoon, live from campus, live from around campus, from town, wherever this thing gets figured out to be. And of course, we'd always love for you to support us by supporting Alumni Hall. Buy some stuff from them from our link in our description, and it'll help support us and them. That's all the stuff for you. Let's talk about it. What else you guys got? Drop some comments, some questions. Got a few minutes left, and we'll get into it. Auburn will beat the team that beat Alabama. I am not ready to confidently say that. I'm predicting a win, but you have my word. We are going to let loose with that if, and this is a big if, we win. Because boy, have we listened to it for almost a year now. New Mexico State. They ain't going to hear the end of this. If we win. I think the key to this game is going to be if Auburn can outscore Vandy at the end of the game. Most redundant statement ever known to man, but the most true statement ever known. Just feel like being favored by 7 when Coach Freeze was favored against Pavia and Jerry Kill by 23 plus. The last 2 matchups is not a good sign. Wish we were the underdogs. There's something, there's always, you can look at it that way. I would much rather us be favored at home. Maybe not by a lot. This is probably the sweet spot, to be honest with you. No good. You get here however you can. No apologies necessary. B-ball score started at 7. You're asking if it starts at 7? It starts at 7. Yes. I haven't even really thought about it. We will be doing basketball post-game streams for those of you that are interested in those. Don't think we're going to do one even though I'll be at the game tomorrow for that one, just because it'll be a little iffy on the timing. I've got some other things I need to be focusing on. But most certainly, we will be doing post game streams, and there may be some times where we have to kind of like back to back some of these things. So be looking for that. I think Pavia is at his best when he and his team are doubted. Well, kind of back to your point, I don't think that a 7 point um, expected win by the numbers of the predictions here for Auburn is them being doubted. To me, that's still a sign that Vanderbilt is respected. Now, of course, they're going to take it at literal face value. They're doubted that they're going to win just even by a point, if that was the case. To me, normal Vanderbilt fans, this is fans, we're not talking about Pavia, would see that not as an insult, as a wow, we've certainly come to a certain point. And we're actually respected this year. And here's an element we haven't talked about yet. Keep this in mind. They are one victory away from bowl eligibility. How often does Vanderbilt get to talk about bowl eligibility this early in the season? So this is a big one for them. They get to sweep the state of Alabama, bowl eligibility. So many other, the whole freeze dynamic playing against Pavia is there. So there's a lot of cool storylines here. This is going to be an actually more fun game and more fun weekend than I thought it would be. So I'm excited. I hope all of you all are as well. All right. I think a couple other things came in there, like all the last thing. Any guest on the episode 100 show? Yes. Not going to share them right now because we are unfortunately just trying to get some logistic stuff that have been nightmares to figure out. Again, it's no from lack of effort on our end trying to get those figured out. Just been some very things. So, and it's not has anything to do with guests either. Our guests are actually waiting to know if they have certain things figured out. But yes, we do. And I don't want to like sit here and act like we're going to have some players on the show or anything like that. But there are going to be some cool people that bring different perspectives of the Auburn experience that I think you're going to have value in seeing that. No Linda at the Tiger Walk. I'm sad. He says, respectfully, can we start Hank Brown? Disagree with you respectfully with the UCF thing, because Peyton gives us the best opportunity to win, whether you like it or not. And he's shown that time and time again. So we can keep pushing that narrative and asking for that. But really, if we continue to do that respectfully, you said it respectfully as well, that's becoming part of the problem rather just than accepting the reality that is. They're going to put the best player out there on the field because it's their jobs to keep their jobs. They got to put the best players out there to do that. How does the depth look for the release? How does our depth look for the release of the DB this week? What am I missing there, Robert? What's the DB? Point spread is a tool to even the bets on both sides. I think 7.5 is a tad high for this game. I think we squeak out a win at the end, and that was reflective in my prediction, many of y'all's predictions, although a lot of you thought a lot more points than I did there. All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Packing to do, heading to Auburn tomorrow. If you're in the Conquer Club, you know it. Make sure that you, if you're in the Tiger tier or the Eagle tier, you'll get those special updates from me as we go throughout campus the weekend. And I'll obviously be sharing a lot on social media. So be following everywhere you can until we get back together, whether it's on one of our streams this weekend, back here next Thursday. Well, actually, it'll be a bye week. So whenever we get back together, I enjoy having you guys here. Thank you for joining us. Till then, War Eagle.